There are many ways God has worked in my life this past year. Deciding on a school to continue my education was a very hard decision. I put my trust in God and knew everything would work out. Now, a year later, I know God made sure I was on the right track. I made amazing friends, and I know each one of them was placed into my life for a reason. The classes I took led me to amazing professors who helped me choose my major. I felt confident in my decision to go with environmental studies. I want to be able to do anything in my power to protect the earth God gave us. I cannot wait to continue with that path. I also was so blessed to still have the support of my amazing church family, even if I was a few hours away. My first time living away from home, and I still had endless support from God, church, and my family.
Hey everyone, I'd like to start by thanking you guys for considering me as a scholarship applicant. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elinor Frank. I'm a recent graduate from Salem High School, and I'll be attending Bloomsburg University in the fall as a health sciences major. I wasn't sure what I was going to tell you guys about me, but I decided to go ahead and read one of my essays that I wrote for the scholarships. Faith is not something that has come easy to me. When I was younger, I struggled to understand it. I bounced between two churches, one where I was surrounded by people who welcomed me with open hearts, and another where it wasn't acceptable for children to socialize. I was extremely active in churches, participating in an average of 5 vacation Bible schools a summer, in youth groups, and attending Sunday school. I loved going to these activities and interacting with other kids my age to understand how they've experienced God. Unfortunately, I was still struggling with those feelings that church was not a welcoming place for children. When I was in 4th grade, my parents were going through some financial struggles, and they didn't have the money required for me to attend the church's Sunday school. Even though I wanted to go, and they were able to eventually get the money, the church said they were sorry, but they could not make room for me in their Sunday school class. This was when everything changed. My dad took me to the First Baptist Church of Woodstown. Now, when I was at my mom's church, I saw a lot of grown people who would scowl and frown at me when I attempted to sing along during the service. One man would even glare at me and made sure I saw him turn down his hearing aid when I started to sing. I didn't know what I was doing wrong, but I knew I didn't like it. Although I was scared at first when I went to the church with my father, I found welcoming people everywhere. The children were able to interact with the pastor during church. This was something I had never seen before. He made the service fun through the mystery message box and trying to stump the pastor. One day, a grown man with a beard handed me the box. The man asked me to put anything I wanted into it for next Sunday. It would be my job to stump the pastor and see if he can connect God to an everyday object. I decided to put my favorite neck rest pillow into the box. It was shaped as a giraffe, and when he opened it in front of everyone, he explained how it relates to God. I could not believe that somebody was able to connect God to a neck rest, but he did it. He explains that it related to God because God supports all of us. He supports our mind, our body, our soul, every single one of us. Whereas the neck rest supported us, but just my neck and my head. I remember the feeling of him placing his arm around me and making me feel like I was at home in the house of God, that I'm welcome in God's house. The pastor then handed me the box, and I went with all the other kids, where we went and sang and danced, played games, made crafts, and sometimes even got to have a little snack. The members of the First Baptist Church even sent me to Baptist Camp Lebanon for my first sleepaway camp. When I talked to my dad about why I feel so different between the two churches, he explained to me that a relationship with God is a personal one, that we don't need anyone to talk to God for us. We can go to God on our own, and He will listen and answer us. It is through God's love and word that we will find our place. At the end of the year, Pastor Darrell even gave me my very own Bible. For the first time, I felt that the house of God was a home. It was my home. The following year, my dad switched jobs and had to work on weekends, so I returned back to my mom's church for my 5th grade Sunday school. The year after that, my mom's church welcomed a new person into the youth section. She was warm and welcoming and listened to the suggestions from the children. She then created something called Bible Adventures, which was like what First Baptist had been doing, and I once again felt welcomed. There we sang, we danced, we listened to scripture in a new idea, a new way. I helped teach the songs I had learned from First Baptist VBS program that year. Unfortunately, though, the lady who had taken over was called to work in faith somewhere else, and the program began to fall. It was then that I had a calling, that for now, this is where I needed to be. I took everything I learned in 4th grade from the First Baptist Church of Woodstown and used it. I did my best to make the children feel how I felt at the First Baptist Church. That God's home is their home. And the love He has for me, He has for each and every one of them. I did my best to make them feel safe and loved by God in His home. The year I entered 9th grade in high school was my first year teaching on my own in Sunday school. I was asked to teach 2nd grade. One day, a mother of a student approached me and explained that her child hated coming to church. I was a little bit confused, and then she became teary-eyed. And she explained to me that now her son practically drags her to church because he feels safe here. He felt loved and accepted. He felt as though he wanted to be a part of the Christian faith and follow it. What I've learned so far is that God is love. His love for us is warm, welcoming, and never-ending. God's love is very personal, but abundant enough for everyone. Just as I had learned from everyone at First Baptist, God's love is felt best when shared with others. I continued to teach 2nd grade throughout high school, served as a crew leader for First Baptist Church of Woodstown's Vacation Bible School program, and attended youth group events at First Baptist whenever I possibly could. My friends even kid about my love of Christian radio, but it doesn't bother me because I know God loves me and I've been called to share and teach His love. I want to thank you guys again for considering me as a scholarship recipient and send you home remembering that God loves you and you taught me that He loved me. Thank you.
Good morning, FBC family. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Patricia Goforth. I was born and raised here in the church and have been a regular attendee ever since I can remember. 2 years ago, I decided to go back to Salem Community College and work towards getting my associates in applied science business administration. I've been working for about 15 years in business administration. Our very own Darlene Perkins, who moved back home to Montana last year, hired me in, and now I run the entire office of the company. So I decided to go back to school so that I could learn some of the things that, working in a small office doesn't teach you. A little bit more about the corporate world, a little bit more about certain programs and accounting that you don't necessarily learn working for one company. So I recently graduated. Graduation should have been in May, but thanks to COVID, it was pushed off. They did a drive-through ceremony in, I believe it was June. I was not able to take part, but I did receive my diploma. They mailed it to me. And I'm just so thankful to my FBC family for helping me get through this time. It was a very rough couple of years. Never been the best student. And in the midst of it all, I wound up losing my mom like the week of my finals. And it was a really hard year last year. But FBC really stayed by my side and helped continue to push me forward. So I'm very appreciative of that. Where is God leading me now? I'm not 100% sure. I still feel like I am kind of lost at sea in terms of where I'm going next. I know that job-wise, I'm pretty happy where I'm at. Every job has its ups and downs. However, I do have a pretty decent situation going on. And so I don't 100% know where I'm going. However, I do know that God has a plan. He has a plan for me. He has a plan for you. And it's a good one. Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, saith the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. That's kind of my life verse. And I'm very thankful to my mom for that, because no matter what's going on in my life, I know that God has a plan for me, whether I know it or not. So if moving forward, if you would please just say a prayer so that I can help kind of find my way a little bit, know what God has in store for me, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you all. Have a great day. God bless.
Hi, church family. I hope you are all doing well despite everything that is going on. I'm Camryn. If you don't know me, I just finished my sophomore year at Eastern University and am going back in a few weeks for junior year. We're still supposed to be on campus, so I'm excited but nervous for that. I'm an early childhood education major. That was new for me this year. I switched from history with the concentration in secondary education to early childhood education. I had another nursery job working up there and just did a lot of babysitting, and I just really felt like I was being called to switch my area of focus into a group with younger kids, because I really am passionate about working with that age group, and it was the right fit for me. So I have switched, and I'm really excited about that change and taking more education courses next year. I also play lacrosse at Eastern. I wasn't going to go back this year because I went through really awful hip injury and just finally recovered from that. So I was really excited to play again this season, and then with COVID, we couldn't play anymore, but I was able to play in a few games, and I started and played the whole game, which was something that I have been asked to everyone to pray for me for that, and I prayed for it a lot, and I was so grateful to have that blessing of even just a few games and getting back out there and knowing that I could do again. And I really hope to be a coach in the future too, to be able to teach other kids about this game that I love. So despite losing that season and how awful that was, I was just so grateful to have the time that I did to play again, and I'm hopeful we'll get a season again. But I just wanted to thank the church family for supporting me throughout every step of the way as I decide what career path I want to go on, and just praying for me all the time to give me strength and persevere. Thank you.
Hi everyone, if you don't know me, my name is Jordyn Hackett-Slimm. I've been going to the First Baptist Church of Woodstown since pretty much I was born. I was brought up in the church, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank the church for a couple of things. I really appreciated the support that I've had my entire life growing up, even if I was crawling in the middle of mystery message or sermons. I've really felt like the church has been a second family to me. And another thing that I wanted to thank the church for is the opportunity to go to Baptist Camp Lebanon and to have those scholarships for other children in the church. To be able to go to Camp Lebanon was a blessing that I didn't know would continue throughout 10 years of my life. I started going to Baptist Camp Lebanon when I was either 8 or 9, back in 2010. That was the first time I went as a camper, and I still remember my first experience there. I remember my first counselor, and I remember how much love I felt, and I knew from a young age that this was a very special place, even if I didn't quite understand why. So I guess 9 or 10 years later, I got the opportunity to work at Camp Lebanon over the summer, and I wouldn't have been able to have that experience if it wasn't for the church scholarships for Baptist Camp Lebanon. Something I learned not this summer, but the last summer, is that kindness and compassion is a universal language, and I learned this through counseling. My first ever group that I counseled was mini camp, and that was last summer, and trying to keep control of 8, 9, and 8-year-olds is very, very hard. Those girls just wanted to run around, and like I said, when I was at that age, I still understood that it was a very special place to be, even if I didn't understand all the lessons, and I really think I got that point across to the girls. And it's an experience I won't forget. It was exhausting and sometimes frustrating. I remember one morning the girls came in at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they asked when breakfast was, and I was like, it's like 3 or 4 hours away, go back to bed. And you know, those are the experiences that made it frustrating, but I'll never forget that experience because I learned a lot. And then my second experience last year is I also got to counsel a group of middle school aged girls, and it was for Adrenaline Sports Camp. And if you know me, or if you've ever seen me at youth group, I really don't like the sporty games, more of a board games kind of girl. And so this was way out of my comfort zone. We went on 3 field trips this week, and that was tubing, we went rock climbing, and we went and did paintball, which are 3 things that I don't have a lot of experience in. And what also made this experience so amazing was that my girls, for that cabin, their first language was Korean, and you know, I needed to establish trust with these girls early on in order for them to trust me to take care of them throughout the week. So the first thing that we established was, you know, yes and no, good and bad, because those are the basics that you need to know. If they didn't like the food, or they wanted a different option, or, you know, they weren't comfortable with rock climbing, we need to be able to communicate with each other. And by the end of the week, the girls had said to me, you know, they had never been prayed over before. Nobody had ever prayed over them individually. And even if, you know, they didn't understand the words I was saying, they still felt what I was feeling, and they felt like the Holy Spirit was really speaking to them. And that's when I really learned that lesson, that kindness and compassion is the universal language. So I'm really grateful for the church for giving me that opportunity to go and be a counselor for many campers, and just to have those experiences at Baptist Camp Lebanon. Thank you for all your support. I can't wait for next year in college. I'm definitely going to take the lessons I learned at the church and at Baptist Camp Lebanon with me into college. So thank you again.
Hi everyone! For those who don't know me, my name is Morgan Horner. I am going to be a senior at Rutgers, New Brunswick this fall, so I just finished my junior year. I wanted to talk today a little bit about what God has been doing in my life, some updates from this past year. I know the second semester was a lot different than everyone expected, and I'm sure the other college students will have things to say about that too. But there has been a lot of changes this past year. I think definitely during the whole quarantine experience was a time that I really had a lot of opportunity for self-reflection, to kind of think about what my plans were for the future. And I think that in that situation, God really helped me find what my actual path should be, because I've been confused. I've been going back and forth. I think that's a common experience that a lot of college students have. But I did realize one day, like in the middle of quarantine, I was just sitting there, I was thinking, like, I don't know what I want to do. I did feel really lost for the first time really in my academic career. I had always had a plan, and this was the first time that I really just felt at a loss, because what I had wanted to do before didn't really seem like it was going to happen. And I remember just praying, like, God, please give me some direction, give me something that, you know, feels right to me and feels like this is what I'm supposed to do. And it was really not soon after that I kind of was just like struck with this idea, like nursing. And so I did a lot of research on it, talked to a bunch of people, and so I decided that my plan after I graduate is to enroll in a accelerated nursing program, wherever that is. And then after that, I would like to work as a nurse for a couple of years, because I'll have my bachelor's in nursing at that point. And then I would love to go back and become a nurse practitioner, working in psychiatry and mental health care, because I had always wanted to work in mental health care or psychology, but I wasn't really sure what that looked like, and I kind of explored a bunch of different ideas, but nothing really seemed perfect for me. And this just feels like the best fit out of everything that I've ever thought that I wanted to do. And I couldn't be more happy and more excited. And I can't wait to share in that excitement with everyone else and all of you when we're all together again. So yeah, that's really the biggest update from this past year. Other than COVID happening, the fall semester was great. Good grades all around, but yeah, other than that, that's really all I have to say for today. So talk to you soon.
Hi church, it's Emily Suwala. This is my video for Youth Sunday 2020. And one of the things that I just want to talk about is how God got me through this past year. I went through a lot of changes and a lot of things that I had to learn to adapt to, a lot of things that I had never been exposed to before throughout this past year. And those things just ranged from new health issues within my family to health issues and emotional, mental issues that I started to experience myself. Obviously everything with the coronavirus that flipped all of our lives on its head, and we all had to learn to adapt. So there were a lot of changes that I had to go through, and again, I had to adapt to. And I really wasn't sure why certain things were happening to me. And sometimes it was difficult to see God in these things and why they were happening to me specifically. I went through a lot of depression, and that affected me, again, both mentally and physically. I didn't want to eat for a while, and I struggled with a lot of anxiety, and I didn't know how to cope. And then eventually, after a lot of praying, I started to see a counselor at the University of Delaware, which really, really helped. She helped me organize my thoughts and figure out why I was experiencing these things. And then we got to figure out a plan of action as to how to overcome these and how to work my way through my anxiety. And once I had that, I really started to see where God was pointing me in my life, and how he was like, this was pulling me back to him. Because in college, I'm gonna be honest, this year I didn't go to church as often as I would have liked, and I wasn't doing my daily devotional as much as I would like. So this year was a wake-up call, and again, God wrote me back in and helped me recenter my focus and come back to him. And I couldn't have done that without my church family, always encouraging me and reaching out with notes and just checking in on how I am, and I couldn't ask for anything more. So I thank you guys so much, and I thank you for the opportunity to have such a wonderful church family. It's amazing to have other people to turn to when I need help or just someone to talk to. And I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your summer. Thanks.